Welcome back to One on One with Mr. U. Of course, I am your host, Mr. U. In studio with us, entrepreneur, homeschool coach, and founder of the Homeschool Family Legacy, Amanda Schenkenberger is in studio with us. Amanda, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on, Mr. U.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. We had an awesome chat, and we're in some communities together, so we get to talk about a few things. But I wanted to break down some things in regard to homeschooling and your view on the U.S. education system. We'll get into all of that stuff. But a little birdie told me that you have a bougie coffee kind of infatuation. When you say bougie coffee, tell me what your order sounds like when you're going up to the barista. What's your order sound like?
I avoid generic coffee places as much as I can.
I'm sorry, generic? What does that mean exactly?
Like, I'll avoid them if I can.
I avoid them for a specific reason. That makes sense. Okay, but okay. Go ahead, keep going.
So bougie meaning like I like high quality. You know, there are people who enjoy wine, right? And be like, oh, that I can appreciate that. And then there's the people who are like, no, I won't drink a bottle of wine unless it's like $50 at least. And so when we're talking about, I live in the Pacific Northwest, so we really love our coffee. Like, you got to know how to tamp, like the beans got to be roasted fresh, just ground. Like, if we're adding milk, then you better know how to froth milk, because if you leave my milk flat, we're like, I don't want to pay $8 for that. So,
are you giving them instructions?
I do.
Are you telling them how to froth it?
I can hear. Wow. I can hear
that
if they're not
bougie.
frothing it.
That is bougie. You tell them how to make your coffee. Why don't you just do it yourself?
I do. I usually do. But, sometimes if I'm out and about, girl gotta, have her coffee.
Those poor baristas. I don't even know what they were going through. You gotta tell them how to froth it, how to do the beans, and you tell them how to grind them. Is that just you, or is that the whole Pacific Northwest that's doing this? I have to.
I do. Maybe we all kind of like run together, but very often, like if you drink coffee and you have like a taste, it's kind of a Pacific Northwest thing, I think. But there's people everywhere who appreciate a quality shot of espresso. So.
Okay, I'm sure I don't tell them how to do it. I just assume that they got it. They get it right. I don't tell them how to do every single step.
They don't.
That's incredible. Wow, bro, this is going to be a fun conversation. Already, I can see that. You said something in our communications that I'm very curious about. I don't hear this very often. You said that you love entrepreneurship. Even the people who I know who are entrepreneurs, I run in entrepreneurship circles. You know that. We got plenty of those. I don't hear people say I love entrepreneurship, but you actually saying that.
Yeah.
Explain that. Well, explain that.
I love. So let me kind of put it in a little bit of a different perspective, right?
Okay.
So I have 4 boys, and I like to take them to the climbing gym. It's a bouldering gym, so there's no ropes. Like, you fall. And there's obviously mats. There's safety, but you're encouraged to like try to do something you don't think you can do. Like, okay, that up there, can you like grab that and pull yourself up? You're encouraged to try something that's hard, that's out of reach. And it's okay if you fail. You fall, you get back up again, and you try again. And I think entrepreneurialism is very much similar to that. Like, let's take risks. Let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. If we fail, we'll pick ourselves up again and we'll adjust. And so that's one of the things that I do love about it, because it's kind of this like growth mindset piece just built into everything you're doing.
Love that. This reminds me of a book that I've probably touted on this show. I don't know how many times, how many years. It's called Wild at Heart.
Oh, yeah.
That's what comes to mind. That's kind of my go-to book. And the follow-up, the sequel is Fathered by God. And these 2 books are strictly about fatherhood, manhood, but I really believe they have a component for young women and sisters and mothers and daughters as well. But where'd you get your idea from to have that approach with your boys? I totally agree with it. I think it's beautiful. Where'd that come from?
Ask the question again. I think I missed it.
It's okay. Where'd you get that mindset from that you're teaching your boys about being okay to fail, okay to fall, and to reach for something that's a little higher than where you are? Where'd you get that idea from, that mindset?
Well, I think for me, it was kind of my mindset growing up as a homeschooled kid. My parents had me involved in a very physical sport, and you were encouraged to take risks. And also, my dad. My dad is completely deaf. He's been deaf my whole life. And
Wow.
he actually taught me how to read because he reads lips. And so this whole like the impossible is possible, just give it a try and see what happens, was baked into a lot of my early childhood experiences. And now being an adult, helping moms, helping families grow in like, hey, like it's okay to take opportunities and miss the mark a little bit. Like it's not the end of the world. I think that really did come from my childhood reaching high and going far because I just gave it a shot.
Okay, that's incredible for me. I want to ask you this question also though, because you said that you learned from your dad about how to read, even though he was hearing impaired. Tell me if there's one key thing that you think you got from the way you grew up, because you talked about being homeschooled. We're going to get into that. We're going to come back to that one a little later. Talking about being homeschooled and the kind of some of the mindsets that your parents taught you. Can you pinpoint one thing that you believe helped you become the person that you are today from your childhood? You probably have 5 or 10, but can you think of one that's like, yeah, I'm glad I had this because this is, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would have ended up.
I would say from my childhood, like try everything. Just give it a try for
not
me,
everything,
whether
right?
that was yeah.
Everything.
I would, like I had a lot of free time. And so as a homeschooled girl, we had a ranch. We bred horses and dogs. And so like, hey, you want to go build a fort? Here's a hatchet. Go give it a try. You want to like ride on the horse? Okay, go saddle them up. See how far you can get and give it a try. There was a lot that I learned by giving things a try that helped me be just autonomous as from a child. And like, oh, I trust myself. Yeah. Like I can't sometimes like even today, because there's really big horses, right? There's draft horses like Clydesdales, big horses. And my mom would send me out in the field to like go grab a horse. And I'm like this little tiny thing leading this big horse. I have no fear. I have like, this horse starts acting up. I'm going to, yank, hey, calm down, So I think for me, it blows my mind, but giving a child the opportunity to be autonomous in that way is really powerful.
And do you believe that kind of connects to what you're doing with the homeschooling, or do you see that in people and families that are not homeschooling? Do you think that's possible for them too, or is that just more of a homeschooling mindset? What do you think?
Well, I definitely think there's opportunity to learn. Giving a child the ability to grow in that way is available outside of homeschooling, but you have more opportunity when you are homeschooling because there's not so much time spent in a classroom, and they just have more free time to explore themselves, explore what they like. Oh, I didn't like that. I don't want to try that again. Versus like, here's one way you can try it. Go try it in sports, right? Or go try it when you write something. It's a lot freer when it comes to homeschooling than because of time with public school.
Okay. So because you haven't experienced public school, I want to kind of get your view, because I grew up in that. So
well, I did go to public high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's kind of where it started there, and then of course any kind of college. Okay, makes sense. So when you look at the world from your viewpoint, how do you feel? You already have your kids, and they've already gone through the homeschooling process and still are. how do you feel about the whole public private school world? How do you feel about that based on what you've seen from your perspective?
Well, what I'll share is basically what I found right when I entered public school. So again, contrasting to all this freedom I had through homeschooling of how I got to spend my time, what I got to learn, all these things, versus now I'm sitting 8 hours in a public high school, with some really great teachers. Like, man, I loved some of my teachers. And then some of my teachers, I was like, you're literally reading to me from a textbook. I can do that on my own time. You are freaking wasting my time. This is what I'm thinking as, like teenager me.
Fair.
So when I first entered public high school, I was super nervous. However, when they started posting grades that first semester, it was very clear I had nothing to be nervous about because I was near the top of all of my classes. And I graduated like 9th out of 300 and something. Like, I did very well in my public school experience academically. And what I learned was, my goodness, I can come in here and do better than most of these kids in these classes. And I've been playing outside for most of my childhood. I'm pretty sure I know a better way to learn. So when I have kids, they won't be coming here. So that sums up how I feel about the public school model.
Copy that. So I guess for me, I feel like this has to be more than just the process of homeschooling that allows you to be as far along as you were before you went, or as you went into the public high school system. Tell me what else I'm missing. Fill in the dots for me, because I know you're an avid reader. Did that play a part? Are you the kind of person that soaked up information? Because I just can't believe that just because you didn't learn the U.S. educational way, the mainstream way, that's the reason why your grades were up or above average for the public high school. What else did you do? Was something else that transpired that I might be missing that got you to that place?
I'll say two things to answer that.
Okay.
One is because I got to learn what I wanted to learn about. Of course, like, my parents taught me to read, write, basic math stuff. They taught me how to do that. My dad taught me how to read. I did not love reading. I loved him reading to me, but I did not love reading until maybe I hit like 16 and Harry Potter came out. So there was a ways, So I did not love reading.
Okay.
So I will say that. But one of the things that I did love was I learned to love learning. I just love learning. I love soaking up new information. I loved learning about animals or people or countries. I love to learn new things. And that is not something that people get often in a public education experience, because they're like, here's what you have to learn. Now I'm going to test you on it. Not, here's what you love to learn. Dive as deeply as you want on it. So that was a completely different model, that made a huge difference. So when I did enter public school and I had to learn things I didn't love, I already knew how to learn them because I already loved learning. So thing one. Thing two was that like I mentioned before, I was highly involved in a sport, and it was a team sport. To be clear, it's called vaulting, but it's not pole vaulting or gymnastics. It's actually gymnastics on the back of a moving horse. So you're standing, I know. Okay. You're standing, right. You're with other people. I was being lifted into the air while the horse is moving. Somebody's standing up, 2 people are on the horse. Okay. So I was very dedicated to that sport. So I learned a lot of discipline as a child that translated into doing well in the public school system, because I was like, well, this is what I do when I get focused. Like when I'm focused on improving, my game, whether that's, vaulting when I was a kid, now it's CrossFit. Like, okay, I've got to put in here's the stretches I have to do. Here's the muscle work I need to do. Like I already had that mindset as a kid. And so that discipline plus level of learning combined is what really made a difference for me in like when I had to enter public school.
Love that. So let's get into the homeschooling part. That's the definitely the main thing that you're doing. And I first I want to kind of get into what I asked you about in some of our separate conversations. I want to kind of try to demystify the homeschooling thing, and I say that with no disrespect, but it just feels as though in the circles that I run and the people that I'm around, I got some really good friends that are homeschooling their kids, and their kids are smart, well-adjusted, somewhat naive to things that go on in our world that could be considered dangerous. But for the most part, they're smart, well-adjusted, and they're a joy to be around. And they're helpful, they're serving leaders, all the things that you'd want in your children. So definitely, I see great value in them being homeschooled as opposed to being perhaps tainted by the system and the things that go on that are still yet unaddressed. But help me out with that. What does it mean to be a homeschooling mom and your kids being homeschooled, even in your community, in the view of your family, just even the view that you hear from the outside world, if you will? What does homeschooling look like in all those ways and spaces and viewpoints?
Yeah. So thinking about what homeschooling is, for the majority nowadays, this is where parents are typically educating their kids from home, and they are deciding on the curriculum and how the kids are being educated. Because one way you can learn is here's a textbook, read this textbook, and then I'm going to test you on it, right? Another way to learn might be hands-on, right? Like, here, let's do these use these manipulatives. Let's diagram, let's make something together. So the parent is not just deciding on this, but mostly facilitating it. Sometimes there are hybrid approaches, which keep growing, like micro schools. And so that's where you work with a co-op or a micro school. And as the parent, you send them there 1 or 2 days a week for the socialization piece, maybe some things that you don't necessarily feel equipped to do from home, or you don't necessarily want to do from home. And you do the rest yourself from home. And this also opens up opportunities to, again, learn differently. So, my kids, again, we work out a lot. I have 4 boys. We have to be very active. So we've got jujitsu, we've got CrossFit, we've got, climbing, we're going to be paddle boarding soon. So we have a very physical education piece to our homeschool as well.
Oh my goodness. I love that. You're not neglecting the math and the science, though, right? You're still taking care of that part, right? Because the boys are having fun. They got to be active. I get that. I wish I had that back. Okay.
So my oldest, he likes to call himself a nerd. He loves science. Biology is particularly his favorite. At 11, he was taking biology classes for high schoolers from home because he loved it. He's 13. He's taking geometry, which is typically a 9th or 10th grade math.
Yes, absolutely.
So I could go on down the list. Like my 6-year-old's a typical 6-year-old, but they're all ahead academically. And it's so easy to do that because we are facilitating all kinds of learning. And so they're developing as a whole person rather than having all of these things disconnected. And then they're trying to figure out how to put them back together. So yes, we do not neglect those things. In fact, my oldest, he's actually writing a fiction book, and it's really cool. So he spends about an hour writing every day. So we're very much about academics too.
I love it. All right. So you build a program, you built multiple programs, and I'm gonna just shout them out. You kind of tell me how they started. You can break it down individually if you like. How you want to do that? You started Heart Smart School. Heart Smart Homeschool Moms. You started your 60 Days to Consistency Masterclass and the Easy Button Christian Homeschool Curriculum. You built that. All, I guess, are they all under the Homeschool Family Legacy? Is that how it works?
Yeah. Right
Okay,
now,
okay,
my main focus is the Heart Smart one. I've
okay.
taken many moms through 60 Days to Consistency, but I've learned kind of as a coach, right? I've grown as a coach and seeing like what pieces these moms really need and where they need to create consistency and how I can weave that better into Heart Smart. So all this, like those things are really all together.
Okay. Why do you feel like, what did you hear that let you know that homeschool moms needed to have this? I know they got homeschool dads out here. I'm not trying to exclude them because I know there's several of those there, but I didn't get mentioned that much. Not quite sure why that is. I'll leave that to the people to decide. But but from hearing from homeschool moms, what did you hear from them that said, you know what, they need this kind of program? What kind of a call were you answering in building that?
Yeah. So it really, that piece really comes down to my personal relationship with God. And for a long time, I've been planning on being a homeschool mom my whole, life pretty much. And so when I finally got into it, I was so overwhelmed. I had been homeschooled, but I made all the rookie mistakes. And it was, as a mother, I was not showing up the way I wanted to for my kids.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
let's leave the academics aside. Yeah, we were doing well there, but I wasn't showing up as the mom I wanted to be. And what the process I went through, understanding that, when I would get angry and I would blow up, or when I'm like, peace out, I'm done, was really a nervous system issue I was having. I
Okay.
didn't know that at the beginning. I would just say these nasty things to myself, put myself down. I would have guilt that would consume me. And I was, it felt very much like this dichotomy of like, I wanted to be this mom, but here's how I'm showing up. How do I get there? Can I even get there? Am I broken? Is there something wrong with me? And as I stepped into this space, very much the Lord called me. It was shortly after COVID, and I'd been doing a different business. And
Okay.
the Lord told me, he said, you have something special here. You have a peace pocket, and you need to teach other moms how to get inside this. They need this. And so that's what began my journey of of creating the Heart Smart Mom program. And through it, moms who have this deep desire of, here's how I want to show up. I don't want to be perfect, but here's how I want to show up. But I'm showing up like this. How do I get there? That's the real bridge that I help them reach, and getting down and taking off the shame and all that guilt we feel, and be like,
Yeah.
hey, it's very much a physiological response that you're having here. And there are ways to change it, because that's in your nervous system. It's inside your body and inside your mind. And we can actually rewire those things. And here's how we do it. That's the bridge I really help moms with, bringing out that true desire of who they want to be for their family, helping her shine through. And so that's really where all that came from. It was
Okay.
from the Lord. He's got the best
Yeah,
ideas.
absolutely. He most certainly does. When you talk about the moms, are you specifically talking about homeschool moms? Is that the niche, or
Yeah.
or do you mean moms that are not homeschooling that are experiencing some of the same things? I would imagine that those things are transferable. The challenges that moms
The
feel like not showing, especially a working mom who is not in the
yeah.
house as much. They're in the
It
marketplaces. Yeah.
the experience of feeling overwhelmed, tapped out, burnt out is very much a common experience. I mean, I would say among millennials, like we're not even talking about male, female here, but among millennials,
Sure.
much more so mothers, and then homeschooling moms. We actually, it feels so much bigger to us, because it's not just I'm the mom, like I'm everything for this kid, and I feel like I'm failing miserably. So what I teach about our nervous system and rewiring is absolutely practical for anyone. However, I do weave it in with how I teach education, how, homeschooling, how we create routines, because we can't create solid routines until we learn how to rewire our nervous system, because we don't have the capacity to hold those routines. So it's like a blanket all woven together. But the program specifically is for homeschool moms.
Got it. I got a couple more questions before we get out of here. I want to ask you about the program, the masterclass, 60 Days to Consistency. I think I heard from you that you're focusing more on heart smart than you are the other things. I want to ask you about that because, again, I have some friends that do homeschool. If your guys are watching, I'm not talking about you. This is just a general statement that Mr. U is making. Please don't text me and call me. It's just a general statement. The consistency part seems to be, from my own viewpoint, from the outside looking in, when I watch this, it's like it's really, really hard. One of the biggest things is getting, especially the younger children. Oh no, it doesn't even matter what age the children are at this point. Getting them to stay in rhythm with a routine. I mean, getting up at a certain time, doing the work, so you can move on to the other stuff, but taking care of the work first. And getting everybody, I say the word corralled, not like they're cows or cattle or anything. I'm saying corralled, meaning, get them in a place where they're organized, consistently taking care of the work before you start getting to the fun stuff that they probably would rather do anyway. Is that a big part of that 60 days to consistency? How are you handling when the kids want to go off the rails and do something different other than the assignment that they have in front of them? How do you handle that?
Yes. So this is a really great question. So thinking about 60 days to consistency, especially. So I'm also an executive functions coach, which means executive functions. Okay. So this has to do with the planning center, the emotional part of our brain, this prefrontal cortex where we make a lot of decisions. And a lot of moms, when they step into homeschooling, many of them are discovering they have some ADHD tendencies and or they have never been taught how to plan. And this is part of why I dare say I hate public school. Not teachers, but the model.
You said I hate. It's going to go in the caption on social media. I hate public school. No.
I do. Because it doesn't empower you to manage your time. They say, go here, be here. It'll be done at this time. Turn this in, and then you can go and do whatever you want. Like, here's when your free time starts. It doesn't teach you how to do that for yourself, period. Maybe you're picking some classes, but they are creating the times that you then insert what maybe you want, maybe you don't want into it. It doesn't say, here's an open day. What are you going to do with it? That is not taught, which is why so many of our kids moving from high school to college are just floundering because they have so much more free time. And again, nobody's taught them how to manage their time well. So mom is now in a high pressure, stakes place of, well, I have to learn how to do this and stay calm and regulated and teach, which I might not feel like a teacher, and also corral those wild children. There are so many layers happening for mom all at once.
Yeah.
And 60 days to consistency is what helps them learn some of these basic planning skills and talking about emotional regulation as well, so that she can stay calm. She knows the plan, and we can be firm but loving with our boundaries. Because typically what happens is when my boundaries, which I say, it's time to come to the table to do school. If that's not honored, I'll either get big and mad and yell, or oh, never mind, you guys never listen anyways. That's usually the two types of mom I'm talking to. Sometimes she's both, right? And it's so challenging. She would never say this to anybody outside of her circle if she even says it, because there's so much guilt and so much shame around it. And we have so much pressure on ourselves to perform as homeschool moms. Like, you've got to do, like, people are putting unreasonable expectations on moms. And it is another thing that makes me very angry. However, there is a way through, and it just, she gets to learn this new strategy of planning. But like, she has to do it in a place of calm. So there's two pieces there, let alone the kid wrangling. So there's a lot of layers to homeschooling that you don't know about until you get into it.
Yeah, I can tell. All right. So one final question, then I'll have you speak to the audience. Let them know where they can find you and your work. But it could be a homeschool mom or dad that's watching, listening right now who may need your help. So I ask this question first, then I give you 2 minutes to share how they can find you, and any closing thoughts you may have. So I hear a lot of things that remind me of the pressure that you parents are probably dealing with organizing homeschooling and kind of getting their kids out of what seems to be a warped system to most of us. Tell me what, as brief as you can, tell me what a community or a homeschool cooperative looks like when it comes to events, functions, gatherings, connection, community. As brief as you can, how's that look for you where you are?
So a co-op is typically a group of families that'll get together once or twice a week and have classes. Sometimes it's just like a meetup, hey, let's hang out kind of time to socialize. Sometimes it's very formal and you are teaching a class yourself as a homeschool parent, or you're watching
Okay.
So it really depends on the person and or the people running the co-op. For us in our family, we're much more lackadaisical. I teach at home, like I know what I want to teach, like I've got that part. We like to come together for the socialization. So we do a lot of more like play dates or nature-based kind of co-ops that fit our family's rhythm.
Got it. I love it. All right. So we're just last minute. So firstly, thank you again, Amanda, for being a part of our show, sharing more about the homeschool life and what you're doing as a coach, an entrepreneur, and a working mom, because you are definitely working. Thank you for making our show better, for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, you can't get me to stop talking about homeschooling. So,
okay. So with the last 2 minutes that you have or so, let everybody know where they can find you and share any closing thoughts for those that are watching, listening, who are misconceptions about homeschool, or they're thinking about doing it, or they're struggling right now. They're like, somebody please help me, 911.
Yes.
What
I would say to you is to come find me at homeschoolfamilylegacy.com. And I have a couple of different options for you. I've got a routine, 3 reasons your routine keeps falling apart and what to do instead in case you guys are already homeschooling and struggling with that routine bit. That's a great place to start. But if maybe you're more of a reader, I really recommend my book, Overwhelmed.
All right. Congratulations.
Moms. Thank you. Yeah. Homeschool Mom's Rescue Plan for Peaceful Routines. You can get it on Amazon. And I share more about my story of how like I wasn't showing up as I wanted as a mom, and how I went through that transformation and what I teach now on Heart Smart. So it's a really good, practical and story-based way to get started with homeschooling.
Thank you very much for your time, Amanda Schenkenberger. Amanda Schenkenberger is in the house with us. Thank you so much for being here. You're doing so much. I know the world educationally seems to be changing a lot. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for paving the way, at least for the Pacific Northwesterners, at least, but what you're doing with the homeschool approach. And it's good to hear a good story and hear kids that are coming out well-adjusted. So thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for coming on our show and sharing that today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Yu.
My pleasure. If you watch and listen for the very first time, thanks again for making us part of your week. We are live right now on YouTube and Facebook. If you have any additional comments or questions for Amanda, drop them in the comment section. She's going to follow it. She'll be able to see it. And of course, for all of our listening platforms, this will be available, should be next Tuesday, early morning next Tuesday. So thanks again for making us part of your week. We really appreciate your time here. And for watching and listening, that's Amanda Schenkenberger. I'm Mr. Yu. We're out. Have a great day.